Pre-university colleges are all set to reopen in Karnataka today. Remember, they were shut down a week ago because of all the protests that broke out over the hijab controversy. The government had declared a holiday for all high schools and colleges in the state for 3 days from February 9th, and it was subsequently extended up to February 16th. Prohibitory orders have been issued near colleges across Karnataka. Security has also been beefed up. The state government is likely to bring in fresh guidelines for those wearing hijabs or headscarves in schools based on the High Court's proposal till the matter is sub judice. Meanwhile, hearing will continue in the Karnataka High Court in this matter today. This a day after the court rejected an affidavit which claimed alleged misuse of the interim order by authorities. So that interim order stays in place. So the hearing over the hijab controversy in the Karnataka High Court continues today. Petitioners in the court cited several foreign court judgments in matters of religion and religious symbols to cite that the hijab should be allowed in educational institutes in Karnataka.
Students turn back from schools after insisting on wearing the hijab. Many districts of Karnataka reported similar incident on Tuesday. While schools grapple with the hijab question, colleges are set to open on Wednesday. They will also not allow religious symbols. A final decision on hijab will come from the High Court, which is hearing petitions filed by students seeking permission to wear the headscarf. Appearing for the petitioner, Advocate Devdat Kamath on Tuesday argued against the government order, saying the state can stop harmful practices but not hijab. The Council for the State claimed the government is yet to decide on the uniform dress code. The state will form a high-level committee for that. The government claimed that as of now, neither has any uniform been prescribed nor has hijab been prohibited. The government said the college development committees will decide the uniform as of now. Arguments were also made on Article 25 that gives freedom to practice one's religion. The petitioner referred to a South African judgment, saying we should celebrate students wearing religious symbols to schools. The petitioner once again requested the court to permit the students to wear a headscarf that conforms to uniform colours. As the row continues to simmer across states, the Karnataka BJP shared details of the students' petitioners with their names, addresses, parents' names on social media. A move that drew widespread criticism. Sena MP Priyanka Chaturvedi has demanded action against the handle, requesting police and Twitter to intervene. The hearing in the case will resume 2:30 p.m. on Wednesday. But a final verdict may take time, as the High Court will deliberate all the angles before giving a judgment. The verdict will have implications beyond Karnataka. Bureau Report, India Today.
Sant Ravidas's birth anniversary has turned into a big powerhouse for Dalit votes, as the top guns of all political parties are set to pay tribute to the Dalit icon. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will pay homage for the saint at the Sri Guru Ravidas Vishram Dham Mandir in Delhi's Karol Bagh at 9 this morning. Hailing the majestic poet, Prime Minister Modi also said that the construction work in his memory in Varanasi is progressing at full speed. The UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath will take part in the Ravidas Jayanti program at his birthplace of Varanasi. It won't just be Yogi. Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra as well as her brother Rahul Gandhi will also mark their presence at the Ravidas temple in Varanasi on the Prime Minister's turf. The significance of the event can be gauged from the fact that the Election Commission actually postponed the polling dates for Punjab, because you had scores of Dalits from Punjab making their way to Varanasi at this time of the year, so they would be unable to vote. The state of war Punjab intensifies as the prestige battle gets personal. Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi and AAP CM face Bhagwat Mann took pot shots at each other over property. All of this played out at the Aaj Tak Panchayat. Charanjit Singh Channi first dared Arvind Kejriwal to swap properties with him after the AAP had claimed that Channi had assets worth over 70 crores. Responding to the challenge of Channi, you had AAP CM face Bhagwat Mann taking a dig at Channi, saying we will also exchange nephews along with the properties, saying that crores of money was recovered from his nephew's house. Bhagwat Mann made the statement mocking Charanjit Singh Channi's dare.
उन्होंने मुझे भी कहा कि भगवंत मान मेरे साथ अपनी संपत्ति जो है वो बदल ले। मैंने कहा जी आपका चैलेंज कबूल करता हूं, लेकिन भांजे और भतीजों के भी बदलेंगे।
आपके भांजे भतीजे कितने साल के हैं?
10-10 करोड़ रुपया उनके घर से मिलता है, 56 करोड़ की बेनामी उनकी वो मिलती है, जायदाद जैगुआर गाड़ियां मिलती हैं। ले लो मेरी संपत्ति, मेरे भांजे की, मेरे भतीजे की, सब बदलाओ, सारी
सबकी एक्सचेंज हो गई।
चलिए
तो ये कोई बात है? ये मुद्दा है कि मेरी संपत्ति तू ले ले? पंजाब का विजन बताओ। पानी का लेवल नीचे चला गया जी। हमारे युवा आईलेट्स करके, पीएचडी करके, एमएससी करके, दोबारा आईलेट्स करके हमारा ब्रेन ड्रेन हो रहा है, कनाडा न्यूजीलैंड भाग रहे हैं। उसकी बात करें कोई?
ये गाली गलौज की जो राजनीति है ये बहुत गंदी है। मतलब पूरे चुनाव के टाइम में वो केजरीवाल बंदर है, भगवंत मान बंदर है, केजरीवाल काला अंग्रेज है, राघव चड्ढा गोरा अंग्रेज है। क्या ये, इससे देश का भला होगा इन चीजों से?
Let's move on to some other stories that we're tracking this morning. The DMK finding itself in the midst of an endless controversy in the Lavanya suicide case after being snubbed by the Supreme Court over its plea against a CBI probe in the Thanjavur case. An MLA from the party was seen felicitating and welcoming the main accused, pictures of which are causing a huge embarrassment for the party.
This is the DMK's Trichy East MLA. Seen here welcoming and felicitating the main accused in the Lavanya suicide case. That's right, the same woman named by the minor in her dying declaration.
அப்புறமா எழுதி தரேன்னு சொன்னாலும் கேட்கவே மாட்டாங்க. பரவாயில்ல நீ எழுதி கொடுத்துட்டு உன் வேலையை பாரு, நான் கரெக்டாக இருந்தாலும் தப்புன்னு சொல்லி ஒரு கணக்கு 1 மணி நேரம் உட்கார வச்சுருவாங்க. அதனால படிக்கிறேன், கான்சன்ட்ரேஷன் பண்ணுறேன்.
The main accused in the Lavanya suicide case got a hero's welcome courtesy this DMK MLA, Dr. Inigo Irundayaraj, who turned up outside the Trichy Central Prison to hail accused Sahaya Mary when she was granted bail. He welcomed her with a shawl and escorted her out of the prison. And these images have gone viral now, causing huge embarrassment to the DMK. Sahaya Mary was jailed after Lavanya's death in January, and her video went viral, where she named her school warden and accused her of constantly harassing her. The BJP even alleges she pressured Lavanya to convert to Christianity. The Saffron Party is now latched onto these images, calling it proof of the Stalin government's bias in the case and demanding the Chief Minister's intervention.
We have been saying that the DMK government, the police, all were in nexus with the Christian missionary, that school and management. Now they have proved it.
The DMK has maintained a stoic silence on the issue, not condemning or clarifying on its MLA's photo op. India Today has tried to reach out to him, but the MLA in question hasn't offered any comment.
I reached out to DMK MLA Inigo Irundayaraj, who refused to comment on his meet with the accused Sahaya Mary. In fact, in this particular case, DMK has been constantly attacked but has refused to comment on this recent controversy.
This fresh embarrassment for the DMK comes a day after the Supreme Court turned down the Stalin government's plea against a CBI investigation in the Lavanya suicide case. A woman accused of torture, harassment and driving a minor student to end her life When the accused Sahaya Mary faces such grave charges, questions loom on exactly why the DMK is shying away from condemning its MLA for felicitating the accused. With Pramod Madhav in Chennai, Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's get you all the updates on the Russia-Ukraine crisis and the tensions that are peaking in Eastern Europe. Even as the situation is being tracked and monitored very closely by the entire world, Russian President Vladimir Putin has claimed that Russia does not want a war. Putin said Russia has offered its proposal to start negotiation process with the West. The Russian president further added that he wants an agreement that provides equal security for everyone, including Russia. Amid the looming threat of a Russian invasion, Putin also claimed that Russia started partial withdrawal of troops from the border. Meanwhile, NATO has claimed that it has not seen any sign of de-escalation on the ground from the Russian side with regards to Ukraine. NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg said signs coming from Moscow about diplomatic efforts give some reason for cautious optimism.
По поводу, хотим мы этого или нет? Конечно, нет. Именно поэтому мы и выдвинули предложение о переговорном процессе, результатом которого должна быть договоренность об обеспечении равной безопасности всех, включая нашу страну.
Last night, going into today, clearly there are signs of a diplomatic opening. There always has been an opportunity to talk. There are grounds for a conversation about Ukraine, with Ukraine, and that's good. We are seeing a Russian openness to conversations. On the other hand, the intelligence that we're seeing today is still not encouraging.
Suspense over Russia and Ukraine crisis continues. Putin, of course, has claimed that Russia started withdrawing troops from the border partially. But what led to this most serious build-up since the Cold War? We explain in simplistic terms exactly what's played out in the last few months.
Once a part of the Soviet Union, Ukraine is now facing an invasion by Russia. Over 1 lakh Russian soldiers at the borders with missiles, tanks and artillery. While the military crisis has spooked the world, it was not entirely unexpected. Russia and Ukraine have had a troubled past. The root of the problem is Ukraine's geographical and demographic makeup. Ukraine can be seen as two distinct regions. The eastern region has close historical and cultural ties with Russia, and the western part identifies as more Ukrainian. Eastern Ukraine has been a hotbed of rebellion and pro-Russian sentiment, with rebels allegedly receiving support from Moscow. In 2014, Russia invaded and controversially annexed the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine. Moscow has been increasing its control on the Donbas region of East Ukraine. This is where the current conflict is brewing. In 2014, Russia and Ukraine signed an agreement in Belarus capital Minsk. The deal was an attempt to secure a ceasefire in the Donbas region. The agreement failed to bring peace, and a new package of measures meant to stop fighting, called Minsk II, was agreed in 2015. To date, the Minsk Accord has failed to serve its purpose. Since 2014, more than 13,000 civilians and 4,000 Ukrainian troops and over 5,650 pro-Russian separatists have died in fighting. To put an end to this deadly conflict, the Ukrainian government was pushing a membership in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO. This bid for NATO membership is at the heart of the current crisis. NATO is a military alliance between the US and the European countries. NATO's main purpose is to unify and strengthen its members through political and military means. According to the treaty, if a NATO member is attacked, it will be considered an attack on all the members of NATO. Since the formation of NATO in 1949, it has expanded massively eastwards. If 12 countries founded NATO, now 30 countries are part of the grouping. If Ukraine joins NATO, it will allow the US to deploy NATO soldiers there. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has made it clear he sees Ukraine's aspirations to join NATO as a threat to Russia's borders and its sphere of influence. Russia has also demanded that NATO rule out further expansion. The US and Europe have warned Russia to face the repercussions and severe consequences if they invade Ukraine. Bureau Report, India Today.
So Russian troops are gathered along the borders of Ukraine. While there has been withdrawal according to Russia, there's still huge build-up along the borders, from economy to geopolitics. Here are 5 reasons that could really have led to Putin's calculated moves near Ukraine.
Europe is on the edge as the threat of a Russian invasion of Ukraine looms large. As over 1 lakh Russian troops gather near Ukraine's borders, the big question on everyone's mind is, why is Vladimir Putin acting tough? The first key reason: Russia does not want Ukraine included in the Northern Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO. Ukraine's entry into NATO would mean any Russian military action on its neighbor will invite counteraction by NATO members. NATO's growing sphere of influence is upsetting for Russia. The Western military alliance has expanded to 30 from 12 nations since its inception. Putin believes this poses a direct threat, with countries like Ukraine becoming potential launch pads for missiles targeted at Russia. According to many accounts, Putin, a former KGB spy, took the breakup of Soviet Union as a humiliation. In 1991, when the world's largest country and once superpower, Soviet Union, disintegrated, losing Ukraine was the most bitter pill to swallow for Russian nationalists. Part of the crisis could also be domestic politics. Vladimir Putin has been in power for over 20 years, either as PM or president. A military offensive in future might not get acceptance. A successful venture could lift his popularity within the country. The biggest counteraction from the West would be in the form of economic sanctions. Russia has formed an axis with China, which is itself at loggerheads with the US. Putin would hope he can weather any Western sanctions with a bit of help from his new friend in Beijing. The big question is, how far is Putin ready to go? Bureau Report, India Today.
Well, number 1, men's tennis player Novak Djokovic, who was deported from Australia because of his vaccination status last month, which is unvaccinated, he said now that he's willing to miss Grand Slams to avoid the COVID vaccination. But the French Open and Wimbledon only a few months away. Djokovic has said that he's not against vaccination, but he will not be forced to take the jab.
Tennis superstar Novak Djokovic has once again raised a storm. 20-time Grand Slam champion is in the news for his vaccine status yet again. After being kicked out of Australia early this year due to his COVID vaccination status, the world #1 tennis player is still not ready to take the jab. Djokovic, in fact, has hardened his stance, stating he is ready to sacrifice trophies over taking the vaccine. In an interview with the BBC, the Serbian star clarified that he is not anti-vaccination but emphasized that he supports an individual's right to choose. When asked about whether he's ready to forego tournaments like the French Open and the Wimbledon if vaccination is made mandatory, Djokovic said yes. He said that is the price he's willing to pay and that the principles of decision making on the body were more important than any title or anything else. Novak Djokovic is at the center of a contentious debate raging all across the globe over vaccination mandates. And he's become the poster boy for those against having such rules. Only last month, the world number one was deported from Australia after his vaccination status sparked one of the biggest controversies in recent times. And this is the first time Djokovic has broken his silence since his removal from the country down under. While the world thought the whole saga in Melbourne may have changed Djokovic's view regarding vaccines, looks like it has only hardened his stance. After failing to defend his Australian Open crown in January, Djokovic may now have to suffer the same fate at Roland Garros and Wimbledon. Sports Bureau, India Today.
And that's all we have time for in this edition of First Up. Thank you for watching. Have a great day ahead and stay tuned to us here on India Today. Over the next few hours, I'll continue getting you all the top stories.